the lawyer said. This meeting is for heirs only. But I already own everything. The architect's legacy. The call came on a rainy Tuesday morning in Singapore. I was in the middle of a high-stakes development deal when my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in 5 years. My childhood friend Grace, her voice cracked with grief, delivered the news that would change everything. Maxwell, your father passed away last night. 5 years. That's how long it had been since I'd last set foot in Maplewood, the small American town I grew up in. 5 years since the explosive argument with my father that sent me packing my bags and boarding a plane to Asia, determined to make a name for myself in international real estate. Now I was returning home not as the prodigal son, but as a grieving stranger. As the taxi pulled up to the sprawling Victorian house that held my childhood memories, a wave of bittersweet nostalgia washed over me. The place felt strangely diminished, as if my memories had inflated its proportions. Diana's silver Mercedes sat in the driveway alongside 2 other luxury vehicles I didn't recognize, a stark contrast to my father's beloved, unpretentious Cadillac. My suitcase felt heavier than it had at the airport as I stood at the foot of the porch steps. Before I could ring the bell, the front door swung open. My stepsister, Brittany, stood there, her face a carefully composed mask of somber politeness that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Maxwell," she said, her voice flat. "We weren't sure you'd come." "He was my father," I replied simply, stepping past her into a house that no longer felt like home. The warm wood and worn leather of my father's taste had been replaced by Diana's ultra-modern decor of chrome, glass, and uncomfortable-looking furniture. A cold sense of erasure settled over me. "Mother's in the living room with Tyler and some guests," Brittany informed me, gesturing vaguely without offering to take my bag. Diana sat perched on a white leather sofa, holding court like a queen among a group of familiar faces. The shock on her perfectly painted face was fleeting, quickly replaced by a rehearsed expression of a grieving widow. "Maxwell," she cooed, rising to offer a cheek for a kiss. "What a surprise. We tried to reach you, of course, but your number had changed." It hadn't. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said formally, playing my part in a dance I knew all too well. "When is the funeral?" "Tomorrow at 2, my stepbrother Tyler interjected, not bothering to get up from his sprawling position in an armchair. "We've handled all the arrangements." The message was clear. I was neither needed nor wanted. "Your old room is being used for storage now," Diana added. "But we can make up the guest room for you." I nodded, suddenly eager to escape their hostility. "I'll get settled then." As I turned to leave, Diana's voice, honey-sweet with a poisonous undertone, stopped me. "Harold Stevenson is handling the estate. He'll be here tomorrow to discuss some paperwork. Family only, you understand?" I understood perfectly. I was being excluded. That night, unable to sleep, I wandered the house. In the library, I was surprised to find some of my old books still on the shelves. I pulled down a worn copy of The Count of Monte Cristo, a gift from my father on my 16th birthday. His inscription was as clear in my mind as the words on the page, "To Maxwell. Remember that patience and planning always win in the end." As I flipped through the pages, an envelope slipped out and fell to the floor. Inside was a letter in his distinctive handwriting, dated just 3 months ago. "Maxwell," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm likely gone. Diana doesn't know about this letter or the arrangements I've made. There's a safety deposit box at First National, number 247. The key is taped to the back of the Monte Cristo painting in my office. Whatever you may think of me, know that I always had a plan." My heart pounded with a mix of sorrow and exhilaration. I made my way to Dad's office, my movements guided by instinct. The door was locked, just as Grace had said, but I remembered the loose floorboard in the hallway where he always kept a spare key. Some things, it seemed, never change. The room had been stripped bare, no papers, no books, no personal items. But the painting still hung on the wall. I carefully removed it, finding the small key exactly where Dad said it would be. Growing up as Richard Harrison's son meant learning about real estate before I could ride a bike. Some fathers taught their kids to throw baseballs. Mine taught me to calculate property values. After my mother died when I was 10, it was just the two of us against the world. He was grooming me to take over Harrison Properties, a company that owned nearly 30% of the commercial real estate in Maplewood. Then Diana Winters came into our lives. She was beautiful and charming, and for a while, I was willing to hope for a new family. But slowly, she began to erase my place. My weekend property tours with Dad were replaced by Tyler's soccer games and Brittany's recitals. Diana started redecorating, erasing traces of my mother, room by room. By the time I graduated from college, I was ready to step into a leadership role. That's when everything fell apart. The final blow came when I returned from a trip to discover Dad had changed the plans for a major riverfront project, a project we had spent months on together, to fit Diana's materialistic vision of luxury condos. Diana has excellent instincts for these things, he'd said. 5 years of resentment poured out. I accused him of choosing his new family over me. He accused me of being inflexible and idealistic. Perhaps she should take some time to mature before joining the company leadership, he finally said. That was the last straw. I packed my bags that night, vowing to prove I could succeed on my own terms. Over the next 5 years, I built a reputation for innovative, community-minded projects across Southeast Asia. I made more money than I could spend, but the rift with my father remained unhealed. According to Grace, he had tried to reach out, but Diana had intercepted his attempts. The morning after my arrival, I went to First National Bank. The safety deposit box held exactly what I'd hoped: a folder of legal documents, property deeds, and a USB drive. I found a quiet coffee shop and plugged the drive into my laptop. It contained a video file. Dad appeared on the screen, looking thin and pale. "Maxwell," he began. "If you're watching this, then you found my letter and I'm gone. I let Diana come between us, and that's my greatest regret. But I want you to know I never stopped planning for your future." He explained that over the past 3 years, he had been quietly transferring ownership of key Harrison Properties assets directly to me. The Riverside development land, the downtown commercial block, the apartment complexes, all had been legally signed over through a series of trusts and transfers. "Diana doesn't know," he continued. "After our argument, I realized she had more influence over me than was healthy. I saw how she was positioning Tyler to take over despite his lack of genuine interest. I couldn't let everything I built be squandered. I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 2 years ago, and I set my affairs in order. The will reading will be difficult. Diana expects to control everything. The official will leave her the house and some accounts, enough to maintain her lifestyle. But the bulk of the business assets are already yours." The video ended with Dad looking directly into the camera. "I'm proud of what you've accomplished, son. Now come home and finish what we started together." I sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down my face. All this time, he had been protecting our shared vision, and I hadn't been there for him when he needed me most. After composing myself, I met with my father's old friend and business partner, Franklin Ross. He confirmed everything from the video. "Diana's going to be furious," Franklin warned. "She's already in talks with Lawrence Blackwood about selling the Riverside property." Lawrence was my father's longtime rival, a developer known for his cheap, soulless buildings. The thought of his hands on my father's legacy made my blood boil. "Harold Stevenson has been Diana's puppet for years," Franklin explained. "Your dad kept him as the family attorney to avoid suspicion, but he didn't trust him with the real plan. Harold scheduled the reading for this afternoon," I said, fingering the deeds in my briefcase. "I think I'll attend anyway." Franklin's smile was wolfish. "Richard would have loved this. He always said you had his flair for the dramatic." Harold Stevenson's law office occupied the top floor of a building my father had once owned, though I wondered if Harold knew that ownership had transferred to me 6 months ago. The receptionist looked startled when I gave my name. Harold, flustered, appeared moments later. "Maxwell," he said, not offering his hand. "This is unexpected. The meeting is just a small family gathering." "I'm family," I replied simply. my father's only blood relative. Without waiting for a response, I walked past him to the conference room where voices buzzed inside. When I pushed open the door, the conversation ceased. Diana sat at the head of the table, flanked by Brittany and Tyler. A few others were present, including Lawrence Blackwood's attorney. "Maxwell, this is a surprise," Diana said, her tone suggesting it was anything but pleasant. "I came to hear my father's will," I said, taking a seat directly opposite her. "This meeting is for heirs only," she said coldly. I said nothing, simply opening my briefcase and removing a folder. Harold began reading the will. It was exactly as Dad had said in the video. Diana inherited the house and $2 million. Brittany and Tyler each received $1 million and some of my father's collections. I was genuinely surprised by the specific bequests, but I waited. "As to my business interests," Harold continued, "Harrison Properties and all associated assets, I leave to my son, Maxwell Harrison." The room went quiet. Then Diana laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "That's impossible," she said. "Richard changed his will 2 years ago." Harold looked profoundly uncomfortable. "There was a codicil filed 6 months ago. It reversed the previous changes." "It doesn't matter," Diana said dismissively. "The board will never accept Maxwell's leadership. He abandoned his father." This was the moment. I placed the property deeds on the table, sliding them toward the center. "These are the deeds to the Riverside development, the downtown commercial block, and 12 other key properties," I said calmly. "You'll notice they're all in my name. Have been for some time." I let the silence stretch before adding the line I knew my father would have appreciated. "You mean the ones I already own?" Tyler jumped to his feet, shouting that I couldn't just come back and take everything. "I'm not taking anything," I replied evenly. "I'm claiming what already belongs to me, what Dad wanted me to have." Diana's face had gone from flushed to ashen. "Harold, is this legal?" Harold, who was now examining the deeds with a stunned expression, nodded reluctantly. "The transfers appear legitimate. If Richard signed these properties over while he was alive, they wouldn't be part of the estate. The company itself is a shell." The room erupted into chaos. Diana was on her feet, threatening to sue everyone. Tyler was shouting about contesting the will. I watched them for a moment before speaking again, my voice quiet but firm. "Dad left you financially secure, Diana. The house, investments, some income properties. He wasn't vindictive, but he built Harrison Properties from nothing, and he wanted its legacy protected." A flicker of guilt crossed Diana's face before she masked it. "He was disappointed in you. Then why did he spend the last years of his life creating an elaborate plan to ensure I would carry on his work?" I challenged. I patted my briefcase. "Dad was thorough. He documented everything. His decisions, his reasons, his hopes for the future of the business. He knew exactly what you were planning, Diana. The deal with Lawrence Blackwood, all of it." As I turned to leave, Diana called after me, her voice laced with venom. "This isn't over, Maxwell. Your father wasn't in his right mind." I paused at the door. "You're welcome to try. But Dad didn't just leave me property and a company, Diana. He left me the truth. Are you sure you want that made public?" The threat hung in the air as I walked out, my heart pounding but my step lighter than it had been in years. I had honored my father's wishes. Now came the hard part, rebuilding what Diana had tried to dismantle. The final confrontation with Diana came not in a courtroom, but in the garden of what had once been our family home. I found her there one evening, sitting on a stone bench near my mother's rose bushes, looking smaller and older than I remembered. "I'm leaving Maplewood," she said simply. "There's nothing for me here anymore." I sat beside her, maintaining a careful distance. "You've won, Maxwell. The company, the town's support. Even my daughter's loyalty. Are you satisfied?" "It was never about winning," I said after a moment. "It was about honoring Dad's legacy. He changed after you left," she said. "Became more distant, more focused on his projects. I thought if I took an interest in the business, it would bring us closer. And then you got a taste for it, I suggested. I'm not apologizing for wanting security, Maxwell, she replied with unexpected frankness. But it's done now. She stood, straightening her shoulders. I've instructed my attorney to withdraw all objections to the will and property transfers. I never planned to contest the provisions he made for you, I assured her. She nodded once, a businesslike conclusion to our relationship. Goodbye, Maxwell. I doubt we'll see each other again. As Diana walked away, I felt not triumph, but a strange mix of relief and sadness. The family I had once hoped for when Dad remarried had never materialized. But in its place, new connections had formed with Grace, with my half-sister Alice, and with a surprisingly repentant Brittany who was now helping me rebuild the company. 1 year after my return, I stood on the newly constructed observation deck overlooking the riverside development. What had once been vacant land was now a bustling construction site, with the first phase of buildings already taking shape. Mixed-income housing units flanked a central green space, while foundations for the community center and local business incubator were being laid. Franklin joined me at the railing. Quite a view. Richard would have loved this. I wish he could see it, I said. He can, Franklin said simply, pointing to a bronze plaque we had installed at the entrance to the development. Richard Harrison Memorial Park. The past year had been transformative. The inheritance I had fought for had turned out to be so much more than property deeds and business assets. It was a chance to reconcile with my past, to forge new connections, to build something meaningful on the foundation my father had created. The true inheritance was the vision and values he had instilled in me, the lessons about community and responsibility that had shaped my approach to development. Diana had never understood that. She had seen the properties as assets to be leveraged, but she had missed the deeper purpose that had driven my father throughout his life. As Grace and I walked along the riverfront after dinner, hand in hand in the gathering twilight, I felt a profound sense of peace. The ring I'd purchased last week was burning a hole in my pocket, but my heart was light. The dramatic confrontation at the will reading now seemed like a lifetime ago. It had been satisfying, yes, but the real satisfaction came from what followed. What we had built. Your dad would be proud of what you've done here, Grace said. What you're still doing. I nodded, thinking of the complex, imperfect, and ultimately loving father I had come to know better in death than I sometimes had in life. In the end, he had done his best to protect what mattered most. I was exactly where I was meant to be, building on his legacy while creating my own.